in this beautiful realm of mastery and how you feel when you're there in that moment? Or do you even feel it in the moment? Or is it something you reflect on later and say, wow?
I mostly feel when I'm not.
Yeah. Can you say a little bit more about that?
Well, I think I did. I can get triggered. I can get pulled to wanting to fix it, like you say, or tell, share an experience, an example. So the moments, well, I am trained as an assessor. So let me take it from this direction. And I will notice this for myself, certainly when I'm coaching.
Yeah.
So let me kind of shift the direction here. As I'm assessing and I'm trained to listen for the masterful level, some things that we're listening for and watching for, feeling, is the qualitative aspect of how the PCC markers are being demonstrated, how the competencies are being demonstrated. And the qualitative, the coach is relaxed, calm, providing that spaciousness. That takes confidence. It takes being fully present, being there. There's a being with primarily versus a doing to the client, making it happen,
Yes.
pushing, going for a result, problem solving. One thing that,
just to be clear, that's not there in the MCC.
It's not. I mean,
PCC, but it's not there in the MCC
level. It's what we're listening for. What we want to hear is more the being with the client's relationship to their issue. Who are they being in relationship to? So there's a being, facilitating being, versus the doing to the client.
Yes.
And one of the ways that's tricky, and it's actually a PCC marker, and it's called allowing the client to formulate their own learning. And one of the things that coaches can tend to do sometimes is do the analyzing. Oh, so what you mean is blah, blah, blah. Oh, so what you're saying is blah, blah, blah. That's not allowing or inviting the client to do their own assessing, their own analyzing, their own learning.
Right. So even a simple question of what's here for you? What are you learning about yourself?
Right. And
what's coming up for you? Even as short and open as that invites the client to analyze for himself or herself.
And that connects with really inviting and allowing the client to lead the conversation. So that's one example.
Yes,
Another one is, are we heading in the direction you want to go? Where do you want to go from here?
Yeah.
And it starts, the first opportunity is in establishing the coaching agreement to invite that leading, which is, what do you believe you need to address in order to achieve that outcome? What do you believe you need to address? So what other things are we, being responsive to what the client offers. So that takes really being in the present moment, being responsive to what they offer versus a canned question, canned questioning, more, formulaic. So what happens is when there's a responsiveness, being in the present moment, there's a flow. I like to call it flow.
It is flow. It is definitely.
Yeah. And that's the unconscious competence flowing, flowing with the client. What else are we listening for that really stands out? Oh, the nuance, the level of nuance at the level of mastery. So noticing those subtle shifts in energy It could be a pattern of an inflection on a particular word, and you
Yes.
notice the pattern. Offer it up. What you're noticing with an inquiry. What about that? What are you noticing about that, or what are you aware of? Or as I reflect that noticing, what awareness is showing up for you?
Yeah.
Could be a significant shift in energy.
Mm-hmm.
You noticed a shift in my energy earlier.
Yeah.
So when I'm working with mentees on this, building that skill of noticing the energy, what we want to do is not just notice, but have that be an opportunity to invite the client to take a look at, it's an opportunity for them to raise their self-awareness. So I notice an energy shift. Well, what was that smile about?
Yeah.
You're laughing
Yes.
right now. What's going on for you?
Yeah.
It's not just noticing the smile or the laughing, or, oh, what just happened there? Or, wow, there's a shift in energy.
But the other thing I'm noticing, Fran, about your questions there, you haven't done any interpretation. You've made no judgments about it. You haven't tried to figure out, why is the client laughing about that? You haven't taken it to that additional level of mental analysis that sometimes
Right.
we can fall into that trap.
Right. Or make assumptions about it.
Yes.
And ask a question based on the assumption.
Right. So
Right.
it comes back to what you were saying at the very beginning of our conversation about the intentionality of staying in that state of being curious, open, what I call the co-explorer,
Mm-hmm.
partnering in this exploration, but just offering it back to the client. And one of the other words you mentioned was that you as an assessor, you're listening for that confidence. So is there anything in the way that the coach is noticing or is inviting awareness how do you know what confidence sounds like? Maybe that's too esoteric a question, but
Mm-hmm.
or is it a
Well,
feeling?
I know how one of my mentees I kept giving her feedback on how tentative she was.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so her formulating her questions they were out loud processing, and they were very tentative, and she was doing a lot of stacking, and so that's what it's not.
Okay.
So confidence is relaxed, trusting, even if that question that the coach asks maybe doesn't land quite right, or, oh man, let me rephrase that. There's a trusting of the relationship. There's a vulnerability, connecting.
Right. And as you say, so offering it up or being curious, inquiring, and if the client doesn't want to go there, it's okay.
That's right.
And it may come up. I also have learned, and I'm sure you have as well, that trusting that if it is one of those little nuggets or one of those little things that we can explore more deeply, it'll pop back up again. Either the word or the energy shift or something that whatever's going on for that client, if it's really meant to show its face in the conversation, it'll.
I do trust that. Yes.
Yeah, I know. That has helped me a lot to let go of.
Let go. Right.
Did I miss something, or I've got to, just, it'll pop back up. Don't worry so much. And again, so what I'm hearing from you is that element of confidence that you look for in MCC coaching is that trust in the process, trust in the client, in those states of being. Yeah. What else?
I'd like to get back. Well, there was a point that I thought would be useful to share.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about reflecting these nuances and shifts and so forth. And what has helped my mentees is some context here. I like to say that raising awareness is job one for a coach. Mm-hmm. And I've learned in recent times that it's a raising awareness for the client, so that they can access their their greatness, their strengths, their values. They're raising their awareness so they can access these tools, these self-empowering capacities that they can take forward. So we have this marker, we have this rule, this competency that says notice the energy shift and inquire or explore. Well, how come? I can learn, okay, I have to do this because I have to pass this exam, and so I have to learn to do this.
Right.
It's the doing level. The being level is because I'm committed to my client accessing what's within them. That's why I want to invite their exploration and open up the opportunity for them to take a look. And I find with my mentees that when they understand a context greater than I have to learn and practice this competency,
right,
you know.
Right. Yeah, it's not just ticking a box to ask
ticking a box.
Question.
Right.
It's that delving and you can use the word the allowing and the invitation and the allowing the client.
It's the why.
Yeah.
That's the why. Yeah.
Yeah. What's in it for the I one of the questions that pops for me, or I keep kind of in the back of my mind, is what's in it for the client? Is there anything here for him or her in this moment to shine a light on? As you say, sort of that's the overarching purpose of all of this, is for them to move forward. It's why they came to us in the first place as coaches, right?
The work they want to do.
Yeah. And we know from our own personal work that's not always, number one, it's not always easy. Number two, sometimes it takes several times hitting us over the head before we realize it, which takes me to one of my other favorite competencies, which is the direct communication of holding that mirror up and trusting that sometimes the client isn't going to get it. Maybe the awareness is only at a certain level in that particular session.
Yes.
In that meeting, they, for whatever reason, it doesn't matter why, but maybe they're not seeing all that's there, or they're not willing to go to the depths yet. That's okay.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I want to meet our clients where they are,
Mm-hmm.
and respect that if they're not ready to go there, let it go.
Yeah. Getting back on this assessment, one of the questions that comes up quite frequently is, do I have to demonstrate all of them? What again, are the assessors looking for me to do the checklist? What if I maybe don't refer to planning and goal setting or something? If we jump right into what's important for the client that day, and we don't really refer to an overall plan.
Okay.
Maybe managing progress is not as tightened up as I would like.
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. And what's so is that at the MCC level and the PCC level, I don't assess ACC, but I can speak to these two specifically. That if it's a not apply, then don't do it to check the box. Yeah. Don't do it. Okay, because it won't be relevant, it won't be appropriate, it won't be, and some of the companies say, if necessary, actually that language is in there. Mm-hmm. So it's about being appropriate, responding to what the client offers, and going with, and so there's that. On the other side, there is, if you're stepping over something that is obviously an opportunity and a critical missed opportunity, that is a ding on the final score, if you will. Yeah, so it's balance. It's a balance of those two, and we're looking for patterns, folks. Let's say, for example, your questioning. You know, your skill of questioning, and the vast majority of your questions are open-ended. One or two out of all the questions that you ask are closed. And by the way, sometimes a closed question is a powerful question.
Yeah, sure.
So it's not 100% never, never. But anyway, my point is, it's not a deal breaker. We're looking for the patterns. How the patterns show that you've demonstrated the competency.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a one, one closed-ended question, as an example, is not a deal breaker.
Right.
I hope that helps. I hope that
It
helps.
does help. It does help, because it may be, if again, what I'm hearing from you is that you take it as a totality,
Right.
at MCC level, you're feeling for the totality of
Yes.
the confidence of the coach, the state of being of the coach, allowing the state of being, creating that space, as you say, allowing the state of the being and the who of the client to show up. If the coach flows with in that way through the conversation, and
Yes.
may or may not, or maybe just touches on something, that's good, because the overall context or the overall totality of the session was masterful. Am I understanding?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. And
Yes.
but if it does flow, for example, if you one of the things that, as I say, like, let's talk about planning and goal setting. If it's in the flow, that something comes up and it relates to what the client has been working on consistently, or, that 2 sessions ago, this same thing popped up, it would be a missed opportunity. It's not about ticking the box for planning and goal setting. It's about missing the opportunity.
Yes, and in support of the client being successful following through. So those last 3,
Yes.
I like to say what they're about is supporting the client being successful following through.
That's helpful.
Yeah. And so, we do have a responsibility. Our job is being the coach, and we do have some responsibility, right, to manage the process.
That's right.
Not to force the process. We've gone through all of that. So if the client says, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, okay, great, see ya.
Yeah.
That's a huge missing.
Right. Right. I describe it as sort of the bookends for the session. That's part of it, that we are sort of holding the reins a little bit more tightly to really go deeply on what is it, why are we here today? What is it that you really want to get to? What's that nugget that we're mining for? And then at the end, that tightening up of those designing actions, managing progress, does it relate to anything else? The whole plan is part of our, like you say, that is part of what we are there to do, because otherwise it's just a conversation. Maybe a powerful one, but it may not move the client forward. So thank you for putting it in the overall context of the purpose of those.
Yeah, exactly. And checking in on the measure for success at the end is such a great opportunity to give the client the opportunity to notice their progress. And I like to follow with, and what got you there? What are you noticing about,
Great question.
what supported you in moving the needle? Yeah. Another opportunity for creating awareness.
Yes. And anchoring that with them.
And anchoring it. I love that word.
Yeah. And I think it also reinforces for the client that, hey, you've got the resources within you. This was you.
You did the work.
Yeah, exactly. This is, I say that I don't know if you say this a lot to your mentees. I always say, you're working too hard. If you're doing all the work, you're working too hard. The client is there to do the work. His or her work.
Let the client do the heavy lifting.
Absolutely. But it's a way of acknowledging them. It's creating awareness. It's a way of acknowledging them. It's a way of them building in their own resources that they can tap back into later. And they may have just ignored or not taken for granted or just not been aware of that. Hey, you've got this in you to do this when something similar comes up or when this one pops up again.
That's our purpose.
Yeah, championing them. Oh, that's so great.